No one ever imagined Kevin Hunter would end up here, publicly exposed, financially strained, and scrambling for the very woman he once treated as disposable. The man who once paraded through daytime television with the confidence of someone who believed he owned the throne is now, by most accounts, drifting between couches, dialing old numbers, and offering quiet apologies to anyone willing to listen. He's trying to reinsert himself into Wendy Williams' world as though the past 10 years of deception can simply be erased. If the situation weren't so richly ironic, it might almost inspire sympathy. Almost. This is the same ex-husband who detonated her empire with a hidden affair and a child kept in the shadows, now standing as a living warning label about ego and entitlement. This isn't gossip, it's a full-circle collapse. Watching it play out feels less like drama and more like karma settling in comfortably, ready to stay a while. What's truly astonishing is the speed of the reversal. For years, Kevin spoke the language of loyalty and protection, presenting himself as the architect behind Wendy's success, all while secretly funding a parallel life with Sharon Hudson. Wendy's hard-earned money financed homes, comfort, and luxury for another woman, and Kevin had the audacity to act offended when the truth surfaced. While Wendy was visibly unraveling on live television, literally fainting in costume, he was shopping for baby gear. The nerve was staggering. Now, after infidelity, secrecy, lawsuits, and years of emotional manipulation, he's reportedly pleading for redemption. Sources close to the family say Kevin has been reaching out through their son, positioning himself as a changed man, insisting he still loves Wendy, claiming she needs him because he understands her. The timing raises eyebrows. Wendy's name is back in circulation, her image sharper, her presence magnetic again as she pushes back against the guardianship that has confined her for years. Public support is swelling. Headlines are shifting in her favor. And Kevin? His finances are reportedly in free fall, accounts drained, stability gone, the echoes of wealth long faded. These aren't love notes he's sending out. They're lifelines. Kevin has been loudly framing Wendy's guardianship as a form of legal imprisonment, insisting he's fighting for her freedom and exposing a broken system. The system may indeed be flawed, but so is their marriage, and he played a starring role in its destruction. When he filed a lawsuit seeking $250 million in damages to be split between himself and Wendy, even the courtroom seemed skeptical. The request sounded less like righteous concern and more like opportunism wrapped in moral language. And if there's one thing Kevin has always mastered, it's wearing masks. What makes the situation especially bitter is the contrast. Wendy is battling for autonomy, trying to reclaim her voice from a system that placed her behind locked doors. Kevin, meanwhile, is recasting himself as her would-be rescuer. But those close to the situation say this crusade isn't about liberation, it's about money. His Florida luxury home is reportedly under financial strain. HOA dues are unpaid. Credit card bills are stacking up. A six-figure car has allegedly been sold off just to stay afloat. The man who once strutted through studio corridors in fur coats is now buried under collection notices. The empire he built on Wendy's labor has turned to dust, and even the woman he risked everything for is gone. Sharon Hudson has quietly exited the picture, taking her lifestyle brand and their shared fantasy with her. Kevin is left filing lawsuits that no one takes seriously, talking into the void. Wendy, on the other hand, even with restricted phone access and constant oversight, is doing what she's always done best, commanding attention. This fall, she appeared at Laquan Smith's Fashion Week show looking untouchable. Dramatic lashes. Cropped fur. Impeccable glam. She didn't look like someone who had disappeared, she looked like someone who had returned. The crowd erupted. The whispers turned into cheers. The tabloids called it a comeback. But it felt more like poetic balance. Wendy, front row and radiant, reclaiming space. Kevin, somewhere in Florida, explaining to a judge why he can't keep up with his car insurance payments. If that isn't karmic theater, nothing is. The man who once dictated her every step can't even keep his own finances in line now. And yes, the images are everywhere. Wendy stepping out to dinner, smiling straight into the cameras. Her team making sure no one forgets she's alert, articulate, and very much aware. She's speaking up again, forcefully rejecting the narrative that paints her as cognitively impaired, calling her guardianship exactly what she believes it is, disturbing and dehumanizing. She even went on record saying the people around her are keeping her trapped. And right on cue, Kevin reappears, suddenly full of concern. Concern. That, not coincidentally, seems tied to money. That's the question no one can ignore. Is this about love and reconciliation, or is it about crawling back into relevance now that the spotlight is warming up again? Because when Wendy was at her lowest, Kevin wasn't hovering in support. He was enjoying himself. While she was grappling with serious health issues, he was busy playing house with another woman. But now that Wendy is inching her way back into public view, dressed, defiant, and heard, he wants to re-enter the frame. The timing isn't subtle. The irony is ruthless. Here's another layer people can't overlook. Wendy's guardianship reportedly costs more than $25,000 a month. That money comes straight from her own estate, overseen by a system she openly resents. Meanwhile, Kevin is out here pleading for alimony that will never come. The court already shut that door firmly. Her finances are no longer his concern. Period. He called the ruling unjust. The public called it consequences. You don't spend over a decade betraying someone and then expect them to bankroll your collapse. Even Wendy, restricted, monitored, and silenced for long stretches, couldn't have written a sharper ending. And let's not rewrite history. This is the same Kevin who treated Wendy's staff like they existed beneath him. The same man who swaggered through the studio clutching a bottle, acting as though his name, not hers, was etched into the show's legacy. People whispered about how intimidating he was, how risky it felt to challenge him. He once showed up to her set draped in fur while she was barely keeping it together on camera. That was his high point, and it was entirely powered by her platform. Now the platform is gone, and so is the authority that came with it. Watching him attempt to reshape the story, casting himself as the wounded, misunderstood ex, is like watching a magic trick everyone already knows the ending to. The quiet truth, though, comes from Wendy's son. He's witnessed both parents unravel in very different ways. First, his father's carefully hidden double life. Then his mother's public breakdown under betrayal, addiction struggles, and a system that stripped away her independence. People close to the situation say he has little patience for his father's self-pity. When reports surfaced that Kevin was broke, his reaction allegedly said it all: maybe try earning something for once. Kevin Jr. has stayed largely out of the public eye, focused on building a life of his own. But even he drew the line when his father started pushing the idea that he's the real victim. Every new headline feels familiar: another lawsuit, another unpaid bill, another claim that Wendy needs him back. He wants the world to believe he's her only lifeline. Meanwhile, Wendy is proving, in real time, that she doesn't need rescuing. Her voice may tremble. Her body may struggle. But the fire behind her words is impossible to miss. Even inside that facility, Wendy isn't surrendering. She's still scheming, still creating, hand-stitching her own clothes, telling anyone who'll listen that she's not done yet. When she described her living situation as a dump and complained about being surrounded by elderly residents, that wasn't confusion speaking. That was classic Wendy, sharp-tongued, unfiltered, and unapologetically honest. The spark is still there. Undeniably. Now hold that image next to this one. Kevin alone in his half-furnished house, scrolling through clips of Wendy at Fashion Week. Her hair flawless. Her laugh loud. Her name back in the headlines for reasons that have nothing to do with scandal or collapse. He has to feel it, that dull ache of erasure. Because once upon a time, her fame automatically carried his name with it. Now she's reclaiming her story, and he's left clinging to legal paperwork and expired relevance. He used to stand in her shadow. Now he's the punchline. Word is Kevin has been dialing up old industry contacts, pitching truth-telling ideas, a memoir, a podcast, some kind of redemption project. No takers. Not one. The same industry that once treated him like a gatekeeper now sees him as baggage. He had everything: power, money, a secret second life. And he burned it all. When the money dried up, so did the loyalty. Even the woman he upended Wendy's life for seems to have vanished. Her online presence has gone silent. The great love story that shattered Wendy's world has become just another unpaid obligation sitting on Kevin's desk. Still, he performs. He's been spotted around Florida trying to look composed, talking about healing, saying he wants what's best for Wendy. But the cracks show every time he speaks. This is the man who sold the illusion of stability while living a double life. Now he's trying to sell remorse, but the audience already knows the ending. We've seen this act before, and this time, there's no suspension of disbelief left. Meanwhile, Wendy is gaining something far more valuable than ratings: public empathy. Her story has shifted. She's no longer tabloid fodder, she's a cautionary tale about control, exploitation, and survival. And in that shift, she's reclaiming her power. Even with court-imposed limits around her, she's commanding attention again. Fashion Week wasn't a fluke, it was a signal. Rumors suggest she's aligning with new legal allies, preparing to challenge the guardianship head-on. And if there's one thing Wendy Williams understands better than most, it's how to stage a comeback. So when Kevin starts talking about reuniting the family, the question becomes unavoidable: which family? The one he abandoned for a luxury fantasy that collapsed the moment the money stopped flowing? Or the one Wendy built, on grit, hustle, and a voice he never fully understood but always tried to control? The truth is simple and brutal: Wendy doesn't need him anymore. She has momentum. She has public support. She has eyes on her, waiting for her next move. Kevin has debt collectors. And every apology he whispers sounds less like accountability and more like strategy. And the story isn't finished. Not even close. There's talk his desperation could push him into something reckless, a tell-all, another lawsuit, maybe a public stunt designed to drag Wendy back into his orbit. Whatever it is, it's coming. Because if history has taught us anything, it's that Kevin Hunter doesn't know how to fade quietly. But this time, the microphone might be in Wendy's hands. And it's becoming painfully clear that Kevin's sudden remorse isn't about reflection or regret, it's about timing. The moment Wendy stepped back into the light, glowing under runway cameras and reclaiming her narrative, his apology tour began. That's not coincidence. Not even close. Insiders say he's been watching her resurgence closely, calculating, waiting for an opening to reconnect himself to the empire he once controlled. To the public, he's mourning lost love. Behind the scenes, those familiar with the situation say he's studying bank accounts and guardianship filings like a man hunting for leverage. When Wendy's legal team started signaling that she might regain control of her finances, Kevin's tone changed overnight. Silent 1 week. Savior the next. Convenient. We've seen this cycle before. Every time Wendy rises, Kevin emerges from the shadows, playing the misunderstood ex. But this time feels different, colder. Rumors suggest he's been hovering around New York again, telling people they were stronger together, insisting no one knows Wendy better than he does. That may be true. But no one hurt her more either. He knows every detail, the medical reports, the financial controls, the confusion surrounding her condition. And if the whispers are right, he's now trying to use that knowledge as a key, attempting to unlock his way back into her life under the disguise of a savior. The difference now? Wendy's awake. Watching. And for the first time in a long time, she might be the one deciding who gets access to her story. What truly ignited the backlash wasn't just his public reappearance, it was the lawsuit. $250 million in alleged damages, supposedly to be shared between him and Wendy. That single word stopped people cold. Shared, with the very woman he betrayed. The same woman whose show he once ruled like a private kingdom, now reduced to a line item in a legal strategy. The nerve of it all was almost surreal. Fans saw through it immediately. Comment sections erupted. Some called it delusion, others called it calculated. But one detail stood out above the noise. Kevin filed that lawsuit at the exact moment whispers began circulating that Wendy's legal team was preparing a new push to loosen her guardianship. That timing wasn't accidental. This wasn't just about money. It was about leverage. And here's where it gets darker. The closer Wendy inches toward independence, the louder Kevin becomes about protecting her. Suddenly, he's making calls. Dropping suggestions. Hinting that he's the only one who truly understands her, the only person she can trust. But her son isn't fooled. Kevin Jr., now quietly building his own life in Florida, has reportedly warned those around his mother to keep his father at a distance. He's lived this cycle before. As a child, he watched the marriage unravel under layers of secrecy. Now he's watching his father attempt to revive those same power dynamics, repackaged as concern. To him, this isn't healing, it's a rerun. Those close to Wendy describe her as vulnerable but lucid. They say that even in her most unstable moments, she can still spot manipulation instantly. One longtime friend summed it up bluntly: he only shows up when he wants something. A sentiment social media reached months ago on its own. Kevin's timing. His tone. Even the language buried inside his legal filings. It all reads like a man trying to extract the last remaining value from a brand he didn't create, but benefited from endlessly. The lawsuit, the interviews, the sudden crusade to free Wendy, each move keeps his name tethered to hers. And that connection may be the entire point. Meanwhile, Wendy's reality is a maze of attorneys, doctors, and competing interests. A guardianship that began under the banner of protection has morphed into open warfare. Lawyers billing obscene hourly rates. A guardian accused of overreach. Family members frozen out for months. And into that chaos steps Kevin, broke, isolated, yet suddenly overflowing with purpose. Maybe it's coincidence. Or maybe it's the same old playbook: wait for the weakest moment, then step in as the hero. The difference this time? The cameras are already rolling, and the audience knows the twist before the scene even starts. Then there's Sharon Hudson. Remember her, the long-term affair, the new life, the baby, the Florida house that helped shatter Wendy's world? For years, she was the center of the fallout. Now she's gone silent. Her social media wiped clean. Her cooking brand fading into obscurity. Her connection to Kevin reduced to rumor. Word around Florida is that she moved out, leaving Kevin alone with a mortgage he can barely manage and a homeowners association lawsuit hanging over his head. The luxury cars he once paraded are reportedly gone, sold off or repossessed. The man who once had everything is now struggling to keep the lights on. And almost overnight, as Sharon had disappeared, Kevin's interest in Wendy reignited. No one's calling it proof, but the timing speaks volumes. Through all of it, Wendy keeps fighting, not just for access to her money, but for ownership of her identity. Her publicist insists she's far sharper than critics claim. She's calling into radio shows again, appearing at fashion events, even joking about her circumstances. When she told The Breakfast Club, "These people are holding me hostage," it didn't sound like confusion. It sounded like resistance. Right on cue, Kevin crowned himself her defender. "She's being exploited," he insists. But people notice how his outrage spikes exactly when attention peaks, when headlines promise relevance. It's an old tabloid routine: play the protector, bury the motive. Even legal circles are buzzing now, because when timing, money, and manipulation line up this perfectly, it's no longer just gossip. It's a pattern. A high-profile celebrity attorney, the same one known for defending headline-making cases, has gone on record calling Wendy's guardianship unjust. Kevin has eagerly latched onto that argument, weaving it into his own legal filings as if their missions are aligned. Suddenly, freedom is his favorite word. It's the banner he's waving now, and the irony is almost painful. For more than 20 years, Wendy's audience watched her confined inside a marriage that often looked less like partnership and more like possession. Now, as she fights for actual, legal freedom, the man who once controlled nearly every aspect of her life is recasting himself as her rescuer. It would feel cinematic if it weren't so glaringly calculated. Behind the scenes, tension between father and son is reportedly building. Kevin Jr. has stayed publicly quiet, but those close to him say the frustration runs deep. He feels like he's watching the same cycle replay. Every time his mother gains momentum, someone steps in to complicate it. And more often than not, that someone is his father. He's allegedly pulled back contact, choosing stability and distance, while still keeping tabs through Wendy's inner circle. He said it plainly before: he just wants his mother safe. But in this story, safety has become a kind of currency. Everyone claims they're protecting Wendy. Everyone insists they have her best interests at heart. Yet there's one constant: whenever chaos surrounds her, one person consistently benefits from the attention. Kevin Hunter. Privately, people around Wendy say the stakes are escalating. There's talk of replacing her guardian, of new evaluations that could fundamentally change her situation. If that happens, everything shifts: her estate, her properties, her residuals, her intellectual property. All the assets Kevin once controlled and then lost in a very public, deeply humiliating unraveling could come back into play. That kind of loss doesn't fade quietly. It hardens. It settles into the body and transforms into entitlement dressed up as remorse. And now, suddenly, there's movement. Carefully worded statements. Appearances that feel too precise. Emotions that arrive right on schedule. Is it unfair to wonder whether he's positioning himself early, hovering at the edge of a story that may soon transition from tragedy to transformation? Maybe. But after decades of watching how he operates, how he performs when cameras are on, disappears when they aren't, and